You see all of these chests? They look fine, right? However, the code behind it does not. And this is one problem that most people run into. One player script stuffed with tons of if and else's for every single object. 7 interactables is manageable. 20 is not, and your game will not stop at 7. The real problem is pretty simple. Your player knows way too much. In this video, we will build a universal interaction system where the player calls just one function and every object handles its logic by itself. First, let us understand the logic and then the code. Okay, we have our player to the left, and let's say it wants to interact with all of the objects on the right. That is the chess box, the torch and the door. In our ideal world, our player should be responsible for only and only one thing. That is selecting which object it interacts with. The core logic that happens when any of these objects are interacted with should be handled by the objects themselves and not by the player. To do this, all of these objects must expose a common contract, or in a more technical term, implement a common interface that our player will call. This way, our player will only have to deal with calling a single function called interact, and the definition of this interact function will change depending on the object we are interacting with. And that change, or rather the implementation, will be handled by the object itself. We will only care about whose interact function we choose to call. Now back to our original drawing of chest, torch and door. Now that all of these objects are just implementation of the interface, our player now only cares about going to each of these objects and calling their interact function. The logic of set interact function will be stored by this object itself rather than the player, essentially reducing our code by at least 1/3, or in our original demo by 1/7. Speaking of demo, let us now code that part out. Under our player script, we will first make an input function that will interact with the object once they press the interact button. The logic for handling with an object will be handled by our interact handler function, wherein we first select the object we will be interacting with and then calling their interact function. The way to select our object will be handled by our child area 3D called detector. The logic for the detector is very small, so I will just tell it to you later on. We have much smaller things to worry about. Speaking of small, let us define our interactable interface, which will be just a simple class containing an empty function called interact, which we will override for every object of the class we make. Speaking of object, here is our chest script, wherein I have already implemented the interact function. As you can see, it is of only a single line, wherein I call the animation player to play the chest open animation. Now finally, the detector. It is just an area 3D that is the child of the player. Think of it as the player's hands, which will just select all of the interactables lying within it and return the one closest to the player. In the code editor, it will look something like this. We first define a variable called candidates that will store all of the interactables lying within our area 3D, and to append and remove objects from this candidates array, we make the use of the onBody enter and onBody exit signal respectively. And finally, to select our target, we loop through this candidates array and just return the object that is lying closest to the player. And with this, our interaction system is done. As you can see, everything is working beautifully in the demo, with our code looking even more beautiful and clean. Okay, so that is it from me today. Hope you guys liked the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment to boost the algorithm. Okay, bye.